Alright, time to go back to 1981 again. So I've done some tops and some Donruss. I actually have opened some 1981 Fleer off camera. I bought a set of 4 vending boxes, which gives you basically 3 sets worth. They organize their vending boxes so you're pretty much guaranteed to get 3 sets out of 4 boxes. And one problem with those cards, it seemed to me like they were a little dingy, that the color was a little off-white. And of course, one problem with vending boxes is that the cards are potentially a little more exposed since they're not really, sealed. So I thought I would try opening a wax box, and these can be had for, if you're patient, around $100-ish. So there are nominally 36 packs in a box, but there are 2 free packs, and so this was one of the ways in which they tried to attract dealers. So Mr. Retailer, 2 free packs, so you get that gigantic 60 cents extra profit over tops. For consumers, there were 17 cards in a pack as opposed to 15 for tops. Now, of course, this is also the year that Donruss started doing their regular sets. So this was, some people, and I tend to agree, consider this kind of a boundary between maybe vintage and modern. Although this is almost 40 years ago, so it's kind of hard to think of something as 1981 as modern. I think you'd have to divide it more finely, but there's an important division there, in that after 1980 there were multiple manufacturers of baseball cards, and that I think that changed things a lot. And I think that's what led to the junk wax era, which started a little after this. In any case, this box that I got, this actually only has 36 packs instead of 38. Let me put the display up there. So this is how it would be displayed on the, nominally how this would be displayed on the shelf. As a kid, this was basically on the shelf with the candy at the front of the little tiny grocery store in the really, really teeny tiny small town that I grew up in. I did collect these. Now, I should mention why there are only 36. The seller I bought this off of checked 2 of the packs to see if this was actually the earlier printings, which had numerous errors. This is true with both Donruss and Fleer. The quality control just wasn't great. They kind of rushed everything out, I think, and they weren't as good at making cards as tops. And I think that's even true with Fleer. Even though they produced cards before, it had been over 15 years, I think, before they produced anything resembling a regular set of cards. So I presume they were probably out of practice. So back to my personal story. I did collect all 3 that year, in 1981. That may very well have been my best year of collecting. I was still in elementary school at that point. And tops and Donruss, I think, were kind of 1 and 2, and I think Fleer kind of came in 3rd. Not sure what reason. It may simply just have been the town that I lived in, the one place I could buy cards, maybe didn't stock these, didn't stock the Fleer very well. But I know I had quite a few of them, and I hope at some point, maybe after, when COVID kind of winds down, that I can get back and get my old collection, my childhood collection of cards, back at my parents'. So let's do this, and I'm going to try to note the variations when I can. And I'm just going to go ahead and pull one stack here, stack at a time. The nominally the most valuable card here is the Fernando Valenzuela rookie card, and I almost started saying it Fernand Valenzuela because that's how it's written on his card, and that in fact was never corrected. Another card that's actually really valuable is I would consider this a true error. It's a card, a triple threat card of 3 players that did not have a number. It was supposed to have a number, and it didn't have the number. And in looking at auction prices, that sometimes comes out to be the most expensive card on there. Those can go for over $100 in Gem Mint 10. Now, there's not a lot of value here below Gem Mint 10. So this is, again, I mean, you pay $100 for this, and you're paying mostly just for the nostalgia and for opening it up. You could get photo buttons. These, I don't know why, that little thing, is that somebody, that's weird. Oh, okay, I guess that's on all of them. Is it? Something 6595B, and that looks like it's typed with a typewriter. Like an old, that looks almost like exactly like the font of the typewriter we had when I was growing up. Let me look at a couple more of these here. That's A. Huh. I do not know what that is. I presume it has to be, I have to imagine this is something that was put there by Fleer. Interesting. Are there other letters? Nah, well, we'll see. These packs are in okay condition. They could definitely be better. This one's very bent. I'm worried about the gum as well. So anyway, I'm sure you're getting tired of me talking and want me to, a little less conversation, a little more action here. Okay, so we got good old Moose Haas, a great baseball name. I'm going to save a few of these wrappers for my personal collection, and these are coming apart pretty easily. Oh, and the gum is not. Wow, doesn't smell like gum anymore. It smells like cardboard, but that's in pretty good shape, actually. Yeah, there's like no trace of the gum. There is a little bit of there's a wax stain on Moose Haas, but the gum did not stain anything. That's really cool. And I'm going to try here. I don't want to spend all my time looking up variations, but we have Joe Price, Bob Welch, Rick Camp. I think there's a Rick Camp variation? I thought there was. I'll have to check these by number in a moment. Mr. Baseball, Reggie Jackson, the first Hall of Famer out there real quick. Now that card has got damage. There's definitely some bending there. That one's got a crease on it. That's one thing to be concerned about is whether these are going to be damaged in any way. There's Ron Say, Gary Matthews, Davey Lopes, flip it over, Gorman Thomas, Dave Smith, Ken Clay, Joey McLaughlin, Mike Caldwell, Bucky Dent, George Vukovic, Doug Alt, and Moose Haas. So one thing that they pioneered was putting the cards in order by team. So the Phillies won the World Series in 1980, so they have the first 20-some cards, which is kind of interesting. So I'm going to take a quick check here off my list. See, there's one of the Phillies at number 21. Mike Caldwell, Joey McLaughlin. So I'm just checking real quick here to see if these are any of the errors. Yeah, okay, Davey Lopes. Okay, so the Davey Lopes. Sorry, the Davey Lopes variation. Let's see, it's card 114. So there's no hand. Okay, I'm going to have to look a little more closely at this. This is the unfortunate part here of trying to do this. So I'm going to, oh, I know what this is. That's right, there's this kind of scribble on the back. Okay, so yeah, there was this like scribble on the back that looked like a finger, but also they misspelled his name. But they did that. Looks like they did that on both variations. So, so it did not have the weird thing on the back. I do remember seeing that. Okay, so Gary Matthews. Oh, there it is. Okay, so this is. Yeah, the little. Okay, so I see this on these now. This little thing here. This little. It looks like it's. I think it's just a print defect. It looks like maybe a hand or finger. And a lot of those have this. Now the Davy Lopes. Interestingly, the Davy Lopes does not have that. That's kind of weird. But for Gary Matthews and for Ron Say and for Bill Bonham, those are listed. All three of those have that same little print defect. But the Davy Lopes doesn't, and that's kind of weird. Okay, well, that's interesting. Reggie. So Reggie, the Reggie Jackson variation, I'm not sure which is. I think this is supposed to be the first variation with Mr. Baseball on here. And we keep looking. Bob Welch. So Robert Welch on the front, Bob Welch on the back is a error or variation. I don't know what you really consider an error, what you consider a variation. I really don't know. So one of the things I don't remember about collecting these is how many packs I would get at a time. I mean, it wouldn't have been many, but I know I accumulated a fair number of cards, over the time that they were available. So it's kind of interesting to think about. Now, these cards seem a little. There's a little off color here because I think it's in contact with the wrapper. These seem a little. The white seems to be a little brighter than the ones in the vending box, but I need to check that for sure. And here's a checklist. Now the checklist, let's see, so 659 checklist. So there's, so this tells you what team. So basically they were in order roughly of how they finished. So the Phillies and the Royals, and on down. And then the special cards here, which are checklists, and there are checklists that would have two teams on them. We'll see some of those. And then some other things. And so what we're looking at here is, okay, so this is the, so these cards, 216 and 551 being included on here, that is the original first printing. In the second printing, we don't have George Foster on there, so I guess that's a bit of an error card. Here's a nice Ricky Henderson. Most stolen bases in the AL. Well, that one, bad cut on these though. Ooh, really bad cut. That looks like that must be like at the bottom of a sheet, because we don't see the next card down there. That's kind of interesting. Great name there, Mickey Klutz. Freddie Lynn. Okay, so let's take a, I'll take a quick look here. Okay, none of the regular player cards are error cards. This is probably going to be posted the day after Thanksgiving. Not sure what I'll be doing on Thanksgiving. I'm not going to be visiting family or anything. I usually don't. Thanksgiving is not just work-wise. It's just too hard to travel for Thanksgiving. I don't know how people do it because it's such a, it's such a short amount of time you have there. You don't really have any flexibility in the traveling. You have a little more flexibility around Christmas, and I don't have a family of my own to celebrate Christmas with, so I usually just hang out on Thanksgiving and go hiking or do something. So I hope you all got stuffed on Thanksgiving. Well, there's a lot of miscuts here, but otherwise the cards are looking pretty good. And Robin out. You got a Hall of Fame. Oh, there's a Mike Schmidt. Mario Mendoza, he of the Mendoza line. George Hendrick, Elias Sosa. So let me do the error check. Okay, so this is the error. It says third base on front. It should say MVP third base on front. And the other difference here is that the other card is a portrait. Or sorry, this is the portrait. Oops, sorry. This is the portrait, and the other is with him batting. And so this is the error card. Jesse Jefferson. Interesting. So Team on versus Pirates. Apparently that's an error. I wonder what happened there. That's weird. Team on reverse is... Oh, okay, right. Now let's see, right there. I don't understand that. Team on reverse is Pirates. That's supposed to be the error in the first and second printing. But here it shows him on the Pirates. Looks like he started the season with the Blue Jays and ended on the Pirates. I'll have to look that up. I'm not sure what exactly that's all about. Okay, let's keep going. I'm going to try to get this going a little faster here. But I do like looking for these errors and variations and stuff. I mean, honestly, that's an important part of the history of the 1991 cards, is the two new companies coming in and kind of fumbling around a little bit in their first sets. Yeah, these are coming open reasonably well. I think I'm very pleased that the gum is in good shape here. These have obviously been stored pretty well because there's no residue on these, which is really surprising. The Donruss wax box I opened, like the first card and sometimes the second card was basically destroyed by gum. I mean, there's still wax on the back, but that's always going to be there pretty much. There's Dave Kingman. I don't know what he's looking at. That's kind of a funny pose. Bruce Bochy. Yeah, a lot of miscuts here, which is not surprising. Here's another Hall of Famer for Blyleven. Do the error check. Okay, no errors. And while we're at it, let's take a look at the back of the card here just for a little bit. So, unlike Donruss and like Topps, they give major and minor league stats and the usual stuff here. There's nothing too much different there. Of course, there's a number, and it gives their career batting average. That's the one I guess maybe distinct thing or unusual thing about the backs of these cards compared to the other brands. Probably getting probably get more wrappers than I really need, but what the heck. Okay. This is a nice action shot of Bill Ullman, although that looks like that's certainly like in pre-game warm-up. Here's Rennie Stennett, the only man in the 20th century, or 21st century for that matter, to go 7 for 7 in a 9-inning game. Oh, Nolan Ryan. Okay, so this is another one of the valuable cards in PSA 10. Now, this is certainly not. This is way off center. But it's never a bad thing to get a Nolan Ryan in sets from this era. Yeah, a lot of off-center cuts here. I don't remember whether that was the case originally, or not. I mean, sorry, when I in my original collecting of these or not. I don't know whether that was. There's Mike Schmidt. We'll come back to that in a second. So, I will do my run through here. Okay, Stan Pappy. Let's see. So, yeah, so he's listed as a pitcher on the front, but he's actually a shortstop, and so that is that's the error. And Mike Schmidt. So this is the number 5 card. So this is that's really interesting. Makes me wonder whether this may. I wonder if this is some kind of a Frankenbox that's got a combination of stuff from different different printings and not a virgin box that was an early in the first printing. I'm going to come back here. Let's get the other Mike Schmidt out of here. Yeah, so these are the two. So those are both variations actually of the Mike Schmidt number 5 card. So I mean that's not a bad thing actually, getting both variations. Printing is much darker on that first one, and so they're both miscut the same way. But that is the this is the error, and that is the correction. So that's interesting. Interesting getting both of those in one set. So that's kind of an interesting thing. We're getting both of them in one, not one set, but one box. It's certainly not out of the question that the boxes could be like that, because you never really know the provenance of these, and unless it's from a sealed case, you never know. Keep in mind that when, say, a baseball card exchange authenticates a box, if it's not from a sealed case, there's no authentication as far as whether all of the individual packs came from the same original box, because there's no way to tell. So let's see, Pete Vukovich. That's an error, and the error is that's supposedly, is that the picture of Don Hood? So actually the error. Okay, so the error is Pete Vukovich with Don Hood on the picture, and supposedly, and then so the correction is Don Hood name matching the photo. I don't know what that means for the fronts and backs. That's kind of unusual. And I'm sure that you're seeing some editing here, because otherwise this video will be over an hour long. So I'm editing when there's nothing too exciting happening, and looking for the errors. That wrapper's already ripped. Sal Bando, Game Saver Tug McGraw. That might be an error variation. Paul Molitor, Hall of Famer. That card actually, there's got a little indent in that. The centering is pretty good. Oh, look at that already. We got Fernand Valenzuela. Let me put that down, and we'll go through the rest of the pack here. Colby. Okay. All right. So here's the Fernando Valenzuela rookie card. And this is, it's interesting because it was not unusual for the other brands to have a real rookie card in the main set and not in a traded set or update set. I always think that's kind of chicken of the of Topps. A lot of times where the rookie card is in a traded set instead of in a real set, but with Fleer and Donruss, they in many cases had a legitimate rookie card. So here in Topps, Fernando is on a prospects card for the Dodgers with two other players, but here he gets a card by himself, and he did pitch 18 innings in 1980 for the Dodgers. And this card is in pretty good shape, I think. It's a little bit of a tilted, just maybe a hint of a tilted cut. It's got that rough edge on it, which I know some people don't like that, but that rough edge is a very good indicator that it's, if you don't know that you didn't pull it out of the pack yourself, if you see that roughish edge on there, that guarantees pretty much that it was authentic and hasn't been trimmed or anything. But that card is actually, that's in pretty good shape. You know, you'd wonder whether that has a shot at a 9. And in a 9, that is a, let's see, let me look at the, I'm looking up the numbers here. So Fernando's number 140. So in recent auctions, a 9 is going for about $30. So that would be a card potentially worth grading if I decide to do that. Okay, let's do the error check here. Okay, Kent Colby. Okay, this is the error. They have him pitching for Waterbury in the minor leagues in 1071, which is probably unlikely, unless he was a time traveler. And the Tug McGraw, so that's supposedly the error. I think that the reason why this is an error is I think this is supposed to be a card that's later, later in the set with saying Game Saver instead of just saying he's a pitcher. So, so that's interesting. I'm going to be safe here and get me a sleeve. Here's AO. Okay, so here's one of the checklists. And these checklists, again, had two teams, one on front and one on the back. So one of them got the nice color, and the other one got the glossy side, and the other got the matte side. And so, and they were sequential. The Dodgers here, they have Steve Garvey on that. I don't know whether that's. I think that's one of those cards at the end where, like for MVPs and for batting champions and those kinds of things. So that's interesting. Not an error or anything. Lynn Barker would go on to pitch a perfect game in 1981. Of course, that was the strike season. That had been the 81 was the shortest season. I'm pretty sure 81 would have been the shortest major league season ever, I believe, unless you want to go back way into the 1800s, until this season, of course. Kind of amazing when you think about it. One thing about the Fleer, the photography is a lot better than Donruss. Donruss photography was pretty weak. And I talk about that a lot in the Donruss my Donruss wax box rip. All right, and all the ads are for the same photo buttons. I always wonder about things like that, especially something that inexpensive. I mean, these photo buttons cost, so, I mean, well, yeah, okay, you got one button, I mean, $1 a piece. That included shipping and handling, though. I don't know, it seems hard to believe they'd made a lot of money off it, but I guess there's enough of these. I mean, if somebody wanted the whole set, I guess that might add up, but, you know, printing these photo buttons and shipping and handling, you'd think that that wouldn't leave a lot of profit. Still getting a lot of a lot of these that are very off center. There's that checklist again. So that again is the error, the first printing. And there's the Orioles and Reds checklist. And another Fernand, very badly cut, and you can see part of the next card on it, and actually it's creased. That creasing that has to have been at the factory. I mean, because if it's on the cards, it wouldn't be like one card here in the middle, you wouldn't think. Kent Colby, there's an error. He has an error card. So the Tekulve, oh yeah, that we already had that error. Okay, got it. And it's the error card again, the 1071 year. Okay, this is pack number 9, and this pack is in sad shape. I don't know whether the other packs at the bottom of the box are like that or what. These cards are bent. The gum is shattered. Wow, shattered into a surprisingly equal size pieces. That's really interesting. That actually looks kind of cool. But these cards, well, they're warped. There is gum. There is a gum residue, but it's powder. And there's a little something there. So I don't know that pack. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. It's really hard to say what the provenance of these things are. Getting some repeats there. A lot of repeats, which is fine considering these are too bent. I don't think I would probably might try to flatten them out. I remember that picture. Phil Necro always has this odd, almost kind of semi-crazy look on his face. But I do remember that picture. Okay, so no errors in that one. And here's the next stack of packs. And actually the bottom pack is warped on that one too. So maybe that's just something about this box. Yeah, the bottom one. Okay, so that's apparently, that may just be, I don't know. May not be all of them, but it could have just been, maybe they were sitting on something that helped warp things, but not a real big deal. Oh, wait, okay. Did I miss that? That there's a, I thought, okay, I missed it. I'm such a bonehead sometimes. There actually is a second thing. You can get a baseball cap for $4. So it wasn't just the photo buttons. There's a baseball cap. Now I can understand how they might make a little money off a baseball cap, even at $4. Here's Mario Guerrero, either getting ready to bunt or something. Looks like a bat seems oversized. How big is he? He's 5'10". It's just, I don't know, maybe it's just the way he's squatting, he's bending down. That bat just looks like an oversized bat. Barry Bonnell, that's a kind of an interesting pose. Another checklist. So this is another one that has one of those late cards in there, and that's not sure what that would be for. Cecil Cooper in 1980 hit 352, but I think maybe he led the league in runs batted in, but he didn't lead the league in batting average, even hitting 352, because that, of course, was the year that George Brett hit 390. There's Danny Ainge. Now, Danny Ainge, that technically, I think, counts as a rookie card only because it's the first year of Fleer, I think. I don't know. I think I have a hard time considering anything from this year is from 81 as being a Danny Ainge rookie card because he played half a season in 79. Of course, this is before he went off to bigger and better things for the Celtics. And there's some repeats here. Yeah, there's a nice Joaquin Andahar. We tend to think about two sport. Oh, I didn't even look for the errors there. That's okay. Yeah, there's another Nolan Ryan. That one's off center. Getting a lot of repeats already. Not sure how good or bad the collation is in this. I know that there have been some very bad collations that people have found in the Donruss cards. Damaged a little bit. Don't know whether that's true with the 81 Fleer. Okay, Britt Burns. So this is another one that's supposed to have that little hand with a little finger on it, a little print defect or piece of something that got on there, but does not. This one, Britt Burns, does not have that. So that's technically supposed to be the second printing. Rick Dempsey, the same thing. It's supposed to have the little hand there. So I don't totally understand the mix of cards here. Okay, getting into some new ones. Oscar Gamble, looks like his fro is a little more subdued. He was very well known for having a very spectacular afro. Yeah, these are some, well, now there's some repeats again. Ted Simmons, Hall of Famer. Okay, no interesting errors there. One of the things I really wonder about, not only in my childhood collection of these, not only whether the centering was, there was a lot of poor centering, but, I don't know, should I get the glare off that? I don't know whether the cards are in good. The cards might be in poorer condition because I handled them too much. That's something I'm really not sure about. I mean, I don't have very many cards in my possession from that time. I have a few, but not very many. The Rickey Henderson rookie from 1980 is in pretty good shape, but it obviously has been handled. I think that's the one I sent into PSA. Still waiting for that. That I hope comes back as a 7. Another checklist here: the Angels and the Cubs. There's great alternate Astros pattern there. Well, stolen bases in the AL. Rickey Henderson. I think we had that one earlier. That one's centering is not too bad on that. Yeah, we had that sequence before, I believe. Okay, so Tim Flannery. The error here is it was a reverse negative. So he is a left-handed batter. Oh yeah, indeed, and he's shown batting right-handed. So this is the error. This is a flipped negative, and in fact, oh yeah, you can see that in the. You can see that in the Padres. You can kind of see that in the Padres written on the thing there. So that's a backwards flip negative error. That's something that doesn't really happen anymore. Of course, the funny thing is that does happen with some video recordings. Is that they're automatically reversed, but in terms of there's no negative to get reversed. And I am old enough to have taken. I took a couple thousand pictures on film from 87 when I got my first 35 millimeter camera up through 2005 when I went all digital. And of course, I've shot, geez, I think something like 30,000 pictures since then digital. That's the first Eddie Murray we've had. Here's another one of those great baseball names. Good old Pete. Okay. And no errors in that one. Oh, I got a Hall of Famer right here on the back of this one. And a Hall of Famer right there. Goose Gossage. Pirates and Indians checklist. I don't know what's, is that a bag of balls or something in there? I don't know. But nice picture in Wrigley Field there. Raleigh Fingers. Little handlebar mustache, very badly cut. Very badly cut. It seems like all the ones in the second half of the pack are seem to be consistently poorly cut. So there's Tom Seaver, again, very poorly cut. And this is an oddity because the if we go back to the checklist, most of the time, because they did them in order by team, most of the time they the big numbers like 400 or whatever in a Topps card, that would be like the future Hall of Famers. Tom Seaver, though, kind of accidentally gets a 200, although maybe they did rearrange things within the Reds to get him the 200, but I'm not sure about that. Okay, no errors there. So this is pack number 16. And I'm already 50 minutes into this video. Of course, you will hopefully not have seen that many minutes worth. Like I said, I'm going to try to do some clever editing here. So I hope you don't mind. This is nothing else. This is kind of a video you can put on in the background. I do that sometimes with baseball card videos when I'm like sorting through baseball cards or looking or doing something else. I'll just put a longer break video or rip video on and just kind of have it in the background. These are a lot of repeats. Hall of Famer there, Dennis Eckersley. Little black, I don't know whether that's a print defect. Bobby Grich. He and Lou Whitaker are the two modern second basemen that are closest to, that could eventually be Hall of Famers. I'd actually like both of them to get in. Whitaker first. So one of the interesting things about, well, this year, of course, I got back into baseball card collecting. I've been thinking about this for the last couple of years, and the way my work, what I was doing for work, starting last December, gave me a little bit more time and to think about baseball cards. And of course, at the time I started getting back into baseball cards, I had no idea that at that point, that was before COVID hit. So I mean, it's even, not everybody who got back into baseball cards in 2020 got back there specifically because of COVID, but I think that helped make a lot of things available that might not have been as available. Some of the unopened material. But I got back into, I'm not sure whether I would have gotten back in more into watching baseball or at least listening to baseball if it had been a normal season. I didn't, this season, I mean, it's fine. It's hard to call it a real season. But I did, for the first time in a long time, I did actually listen to about 60% of the World Series on the radio. Well, online on ESPN radio. ESPN had a good crew there, a good team doing the radio calls there. I thought they were pretty good. And I heard all of the last 2 games. I was kind of glad that the Dodgers won. I was kind of glad that Kershaw got a World Series win. So this is Mark Fidrych, of course. This is several years after he had that incredible rookie season and never quite repeated that. Colin Fisk, very off center. Okay, and this pack is going to be all it's going to be warped. And I say I was rooting for the Dodgers. I mean, it wasn't like a super strong rooting interest. I've always, when I was a kid and following baseball, I had teams that I liked more than others, but I was never that much of a homer in terms of teams, because I didn't have a hometown team. I mean, the nearest baseball team, nearest major league teams I had to me were, 5-hour drives away. And so, there we go. There's the other, that's another important rookie card, the Harold Baines rookie, Hall of Famer, definitely off center. Now, Rickey Henderson, this is the regular Rickey Henderson, the base card, if you will. Okay, that's a new one. That's another, I think that is, that's going to be, so that's considered a variation, not an error. Oh, that's odd. 2 cards back, same card back to back and cut basically identically. Interesting. And that was one. I mean, that was always one of my problems. Is I was more of I was a baseball fan more so than a team fan. I liked the game, and it's also. But honestly, it's also why it's hard for me to harder for me to follow once I grew up, because there's just so much of this BS team stuff. I mean, no offense. I mean, if you like a team, you like a team. But I was just never into that whole. Rooting for, rooting for a specific team is okay, but it just seems to be, I guess it's totally a coincidence that it's the most successful teams that have the most fans, which is fine, except that that's sort of the least thoughtful thing you can do is say, oh, okay, well, here's a very successful team that has lots of money to spend on players. I'm going to be a fan of that team, which, it's fine. Like if you're a New York Yankee, I mean, if you live in New York City or grew up in New York City and you're a Yankee fan, that makes perfect sense, or anywhere in that area. But, if you live in California and you've never lived anywhere in the East Coast and you're a Yankee fan, that just seems kind of weird. And here, okay, so yeah, this is the error. Daryl is misspelled on the front. Should be 2 L's. Oh, and okay, so yeah. But anyway, that's those opinions are why I rarely talk that. I don't talk about, if I talk about baseball, I talk about players and how good they are, or how good they weren't, more so than any kind of team homerism. Which again, I'm sure doesn't make me very popular. Okay, so now we're on stack 3. Even though I'm back into baseball cards, I don't really know whether I'm going to really get that seriously back into, paying that much attention to baseball. I mean, I pay attention some. I mean, I kind of, this year I did a little better job of trying to keep up with things. But I don't know. It's weird. I'd rather I don't know. Again, it's not a coincidence that my baseball card collecting is old cards, stained from the wrapper. Back when I really was a true baseball fan. I don't know whether I could consider myself a true baseball fan anymore or not. There's a repeat. There's the same Looks like the bottom of a sheet. Jack Morris is the first time I think we've had him. The Hall of Famer. Perhaps a slightly undeserved Hall of Famer. That's probably not a popular opinion, but I'm not sure not quite sure he was the best choice. But a very good pitcher. I mean, not a terrible choice. I mean, there haven't been any. I mean, Harold Baines probably shouldn't have got in either. But it's not like he's a terrible choice. We're well past the era of some of the terrible choices that were made in the past. Mike Krukow, that's a pretty well centered card. Oops. Mark Belanger, it's close to the end of his career. Yeah, it's got to be close to the end of his career. I don't know whether he was he? I'm trying to think whether he was still playing when Ripken came up, because Ripken came up as a third baseman, and he was moved to short. Gary Carter, Hall of Famer. It's not too bad of a card. Okay, no good errors there. Okay, well, unfortunately that one is a little stained. And got some other defects on there. Steve Carlton, Pitcher of the Year. So there's an error that has lefty on the front. And there's an error that has him pitching in 1066, a very important year in history. But Carlton wasn't pitching then. So that's an error card. J.R. Richard, ill-fated J.R. Richard, of course. This was 1980 was the season he had a stroke on the practice field in the middle of the year. Never came back to the majors. And there's that Mike Schmidt, MVP third base. Okay. We've had several. We've had several in that sequence. The Bill Allman, Miguel De La Ney. I think that's the first time we had him. He had his career year there in 1980. He'd kind of knocked around for a while. He played for the Pirates as early as '74, but that year for the Indians he got 341. I mean, 0 home runs, but he stole 61 bases as well. So he scored 82 runs. So not a bad year for the Indians. Never really came close to that again. And there's exactly Mike Stanton, not the current Mike Stanton, the original Mike Stanton, and Fred Stanley being the 400 and 100 cards. That illustrates that they definitely weren't doing the tops thing of putting the great players on the hundreds. Okay, on to the next pack. Can't believe how easy these. I mean, these wrappers are. I mean, they're obviously well sealed. They're unopened, but they're opening very nicely. And condition on these, there's that little bit of staining on the first card is very common from the red bleeding through, and a little bit of wax stain, but the gum is not proving to be a problem. So these were obviously stored very well in dry conditions. There's Robin Young. There's Reggie. We'll have to see if that's a variation. There's that Mike Schmidt, the portrait card, very badly cut. Elias Sosa, we've had him a bunch of times. Yeah, so the Reggie, so that is a variation on the same number. It's not listed as an error though. A variation just with the bat and then with Mr. Baseball. And And Jesse Jefferson, there's that Pirates thing again. Jerry Royce looks like maybe he's complaining about a call he got, or a ball and strike call. It looks like there's people in the stands, so it looks like it's during a game, but it could have been during warm-ups. Definitely had a problem with something or someone. George Brett, that's kind of a little, that's not the greatest photo of George Brett for sure. George Foster Slugger, he's happy there about something. This is after he was the super duper star. So that's considered the error. I think that's supposed to be maybe a card later on in the set. The George Brett, that's just considered a variation. The other variation has him as a 390 hitter. Okay, another pack. Oops. Yeah, these first cards are definitely maybe a. I don't know whether the early ones I opened were just that stained, but I mean these ones recently have definitely been too stained to be really in great shape. Now here's another rookie card, Kirk Gibson. That's actually in pretty good shape. No errors in that one. And there's the Mets and White Sox checklist. Are these some new ones? Seems like some of these are ones that I haven't seen yet. Okay, no errors. Yogi's boy, Dale. Oh, there's the other variation of George Brett as 390 average. The card's in pretty good shape. Again, not sure why that's a variation and not an error, but okay, no more variations or errors past beyond Brett. Okay, so now we're in the last stack. This is pack number 28. Ooh, there's a good action shot. I said the photography, I mean, is better than Donruss. Doesn't mean that it was necessarily great, but there's a really nice action shot. Should be possible to figure out who that is. For the number 15 for the Angels. Have to look that up sometime. Looks like he's out. There's another off-center Ted Simmons. Gary Carter, Hall of Famer, and that card's in pretty good shape. Okay, Amos Otis. Oh, I must have missed this before because I've had Amos Otis. This is so him batting is the error, and then so it's supposed to be a portrait. I don't know what difference between what we're calling errors and what we're calling variations, but that's interesting. It'll be fun to sort this all out when I get done. Ah, there's the lefty. The lefty variation of Steve Carlton, in good shape except that corner, which is, it's a natural, it's just a natural bad cut. Yeah, maybe, I don't know whether that's a natural bad cut or what, or that's particularly bad. But good old lefty. There's the Astros and the Yankees. Those were the runner-up teams in the National League and American League in the Championship Series. Okay, no other errors or variations there. One other thing about the length of my videos tend to be a good candidate for watching at 1.25 speed or maybe even 1.5 speed. I do tend to take my time and try not to talk too fast. I have to talk and be clear about things as part of my job, so I try not to talk faster than my brain. Rod Carew, that's a nice picture. That's a really, I really like that picture with the mountains in the background. That's probably in, you know, Southern California, of course, but on a clear day. And a lot of repeats. That doesn't prevent me from saying a lot when I'm doing these kinds of things, though. Don't do that as much at work. Getting gum dust all over me. Jim Rice, Hall of Famer. And more tilted cuts from the in the second half of the packs. Carlton Fisk. And no errors or variations. Down to 5 packs left now. Two catchers in a row. It's a little funny pose, but not overall not a bad picture there of Bo Diaz. There's Sammy Stewart having a bad hair day. It looks like a bad mustache day. That's kind of a weird angle there. There's Harold Baines again. And Ricky Henderson. There's the Kirk Gibson rookie again. That one's another one of those in pretty good shape. A little off center, a little bit of a tilt, but not too bad. There's Jerry Royce again. Ooh, there's Dave Stapleton. Nice pose there. Fergie Jenkins, Hall of Famer. Okay, no errors or variations. Oh, we got the first checklist. Well, again, it's got the reddish stain on it, but this, of course, has the and it's got a crease, Phillies and the Royals, and a crease on Mike Scioscia, and a crease on Doyle Cleveland Alexander. I think, is it the first one I had of him? There's a good old Terry Forster. That's a nice shot. Enjoying himself. 400 Home Run Club, getting some new cards here. So the 400 Home Run Club, that's one of the higher numbered, one of these high numbered ones that's kind of near the checklist, commemorating something or another. There's a George Brett MVP. That was one of the things about growing up a long way from any teams and in the before cable was ubiquitous, so I grew up without cable, so I didn't really get to see. Unfortunately, it'd been really great if I'd lived close enough to a team where you got to see, you know, like all the games on like a local channel. So I had to rely on Monday Night Baseball and of course the Saturday games of the week. That was my big day on Saturdays. I would usually try to watch as much as I could of the one or two games that was on NBC. Monday Night Baseball was ABC. But that was a school night, so it was harder to necessarily watch the whole game, especially if it ended later. Jim Cott. I think that's the first time we had him. Had this sequence before. And there's Eckersley again. Be interesting to see how close we get to the full set of 660. I know there have been a lot of repeats, so maybe a long ways away. I'm going to get out my calculator. So with just 36 packs, there's 612 cards in the box, and it shows you that I'm old school. It's funny. I actually bought this a few years ago. It's funny buying a new calculator in this day and age, but I mean, I have a calculator app on my phone, my Android phone, but I don't like it. I like the regular calculators are better usually. I use my calculator from that I got my scientific calculator that I got when I started as an undergraduate. And gee, I must have used it for almost 30 years. Okay, this is our last pack. I think it's the first Dan Quisenberry we've had. There's Rolly Fingers. I had him before. There's Tom Seaver again. And the final card is John Candelaria. Okay, so we finally made it through. So clearly by far the best card is the Valenzuela rookie, and pretty well centered. A rough cut on the edge, but a rough cut doesn't necessarily disqualify a card from getting a high grade, although it can. But with older cards, that's sometimes not as big a problem. Back to Topps, the O-Pee-Chee cards, which were rebranded Topps cards, they were notorious for having rough cuts and could still get very high grades. So this is the one I'll have to see whether I want to. This is maybe the only one out of these that I might consider submitting for grading at some point. But I'm still waiting to get my cards back from my 80s cards from PSA that I sent back in June. I still have a shot maybe at getting them by the end of the year, but that's looking less likely with the holidays coming up, so it's probably going to be January. And when I do get those back, I will do a blind reveal of those. So anyway, so this was a kind of a casual tour of 1987 Fleer, going back to my early days of collecting. So I hope you enjoyed it. That's it for this time, and I'll see you next time.